There's an engine sitting in junkyards and backlot piles all across America that the federal government would genuinely like to see crushed into a cube and forgotten. It has no computer anywhere on it. It can't be tracked, it can't be hacked, and there's no signal on Earth that can reach in and shut it down from a distance. It'll run on kerosene, on home heating oil, even on waste oil strained out of a drum behind the shop. And right now, in gravel driveways and rural workshops from Texas to Montana, mechanics are quietly bolting that 30-year-old engine into the body of a modern $80,000 truck, building something the manufacturers swore would never exist. And something regulators are now scrambling to outlaw before too many people figure out how. The strange part isn't that it's happening. The strange part is who's doing it. The very people who fix these trucks for a living. Today we're pulling the cover off the pre-emissions loophole. We're going to show you exactly why sharp owners are hunting down blown-up modern trucks on purpose, tearing the computers out of the dashboard, and bolting in 30-year-old analog engines to build something the manufacturers never wanted to exist, the unkillable off-grid super truck. And more important than the how, we're going to lay out why the EPA is working overtime to turn this one specific survival tactic into a federal crime. To understand why this rebellion is catching fire, you first have to sit inside the daily nightmare of owning a modern diesel. When you sign for a brand new heavy-duty diesel today, you aren't simply buying a dependable workhorse. You're buying a ticking time bomb of federally mandated emissions hardware, strapped to the engine and wired into a computer that watches every breath it takes. For the better part of a decade, scrambling to satisfy near impossible rules handed down by the Environmental Protection Agency, engineers buried these diesels under diesel particulate filters, diesel exhaust fluid injection systems, tangled exhaust gas recirculation valves, and a web of hypersensitive nitrogen oxide sensors. Here's how that bites you in the real world. A single microscopic sensor gets coated in a film of soot, and the computer doesn't shrug it off, it panics. It drops your truck into limp mode out on the open highway, choking your speed down to 5 miles an hour while you're hauling a loaded trailer through fast-moving traffic. The failures got so widespread and so dangerous that just this spring, in late March 2026, the EPA announced it was rolling back the limp mode mandates and dropping the requirement for diesel exhaust fluid quality sensors altogether. But for the millions of trucks already on the road, already trapped inside the old software, that reversal arrived far too late. The damage is already baked in. And it runs deeper than the sensors. Modern diesels lean on brutally fragile high-pressure fuel pumps, the most notorious of the bunch being the CP4. The older mechanical pumps were tanks they'd run for decades on dirty fuel and forgiveness. The CP4 has no such mercy. When one of these pumps lets go, it doesn't fail quietly. It machines metal off itself and fires microscopic shrapnel straight through the entire fuel system, shredding the injectors in the fuel lines as it travels. At that point, a modern diesel failure has stopped being a mechanical problem you can wrench your way out of in the driveway. It's a hostage situation, and the vehicle's software is holding the rope. The repair bill routinely lands somewhere between $8,000 and $15,000. And when it finally breaks, only one party on Earth holds the proprietary scanner cleared to erase the code and put you back on the road the dealership that sold it to you. So what did the smart ones do about all this? They execute the ultimate bypass. Mechanics in the know go hunting for modern Ford Super Duties and Chevy Silverados with dead factory engines, the kind nobody else will touch. They scoop them up for pennies on the dollar precisely because the electronic powertrain is completely cooked. Then the surgery begins. They strip out miles of now useless copper wiring, peel the fried computers off the firewall, and drop in the holy grail of diesel engineering, the 5.9L12 valve Cummins built from 1994 to 1998. Plant a mechanical Cummins into a modern Ford chassis and you've performed a swap so beloved the industry coined its own name for it, the Fummins. The result is something close to vehicular perfection. You keep the modern truck's comfortable heavy-duty suspension, its quiet cab, and its lightweight aluminum body, but the heart driving all of it is an untrackable, near-immortal analog block from the 1990s. What you've really built is a ghost truck. Why the 12-valve in particular? Because it is 100% mechanical, top to bottom. It runs on the legendary Bosch P7100 mechanical injection pump. There is no engine control module anywhere on it. It doesn't reach out to the internet, and it doesn't quietly report your emissions or your location to a corporate server. To bring a 12-valve Cummins to life, you need exactly 3 wires. One feeds the starter, one feeds the alternator, one holds the fuel shutoff solenoid open. That is the entire electrical footprint of the engine. And here's the part that sounds like a tall tale until you've watched it happen with your own eyes. Once you physically lock that fuel solenoid in the open position, you can disconnect the battery, pull the alternator clean off the block, and the engine will keep firing on nothing but pure, uninterrupted compression until the tank finally runs dry. There's no computer to crash, no module to corrupt, no signal for anyone to jam. It is completely immune to the heavily contested in-cabin surveillance mandates. And no hacker hunched over a laptop will ever reach in and shut it down. Because it's purely mechanical, it's also not picky about what you feed it. In a genuine grid-down scenario, the kind where the gas stations go dark because the pumps themselves need electricity to run a 12-valve Cummins will happily burn kerosene, home heating oil, transmission fluid, or filtered waste motor oil strained straight out of a drum behind the shop. While everyone else stands stranded beside a dead fuel pump waiting on a grid that isn't coming back, the analog truck just keeps idling. That is what an off-grid survival machine actually looks like when the lights go out. But this exact flavor of true ownership is precisely what terrifies the regulators. When you build one of these, you step completely outside their multi-billion-dollar compliance industry, and you take your repair money out the door with you. That's why the EPA and state enforcers like the California Air Resources Board are now weaponizing the DMV against the people doing these swaps. Over the last 5 years, they've hammered aftermarket tuning companies and diesel shops with multi-million-dollar fines, aiming to choke the aftermarket out of existence one business at a time. And even with the recent rollback on greenhouse gas standards, the bedrock rules under the Clean Air Act haven't budged an inch. Under federal anti-tampering law, dropping an older pre-emissions engine into a newer chassis for on-road use is flatly illegal. The logic is rigid. If your truck wears a 2018 build date, the government insists that whatever engine powers it must meet 2018 emission standards, no exceptions. Roll into an inspection bay with a purely mechanical 1995 diesel humming under the hood of a modern truck, and they'll fail you on sight. They'll flag your VIN, refuse your registration, and stamp your own property as illegal to drive on a public road. Officially, they'll tell you the crackdown is all about protecting the environment, but the mechanics and the owners living through it know what it really is, a fight over property rights and control, wrapped in green language. Stop and think it through for a second. If the why this 30-year-old engine scares the EPA, the pre-emissions loophole automaker holds the software keys to your engine, and the government simultaneously dictates exactly which physical metal parts you're allowed to bolt to your own truck under threat of crushing fines. Then ask the honest question: did ownership ever actually transfer to you the day you signed the paperwork? Or did you just put your name on an $80,000 contract to lease a tightly regulated piece of construction equipment you'll never fully control? The strategy is plain to anyone watching. They want to herd you into the digital truck by making it legally and financially exhausting to keep an analog engine alive. In the end, what they really want is for self-reliance itself to carry a penalty. But the American aftermarket has never been a crowd that takes that lying down. These are not passive consumers waiting to be told what they may own. They're fabricators, welders, and problem solvers who build their way out of every corner they're backed into. Mechanics are working the seams of the law, registering swap trucks as farm vehicles, securing heavy equipment exemptions, or simply living in the rural counties that have flat out refused to stand up emissions testing in the first place. The 12-valve Cummins stands today as the last monument to uncompromised mechanical freedom, and that is the precise reason they want it banned. Have you ever seen a 12-valve dropped into a modern truck? What's the most extreme engine swap you've ever pulled off to escape a failing computer system? Sound off in the comments below, because your ingenuity is writing the survival guide for everybody else. If you refuse to hand your property over to the dealership cartel, hit that subscribe button and join the resistance. Keep turning your own wrenches, stay off the digital grid, and we'll see you in the next one.